with her. Can you tell us a bit about that?
So what this was, I'd had a big night out the night before, and we were going to do a junket interview. I know we've spoken about this situation quite a bit. So we've gone to the hotel, me and this producer. I just assume Scott's back at Radio 1. And we're waiting in this waiting room. There's other journalists and things like that. It's all going kind of as normal. And then I kept getting delayed, and that was a bit unusual. And the producer that I was with just kept vanishing. I was like, something's odd. But then I just put it down to being hungover. And like when I look at this interview, I always remember thinking, I'm just going to try and get this one done. I even look a bit of a mess on it, I think. And so I go start this interview. Bear in mind, I've interviewed Jennifer Aniston before. She's walked out with a Watford shirt. Everything's gone perfect. Like, it's been a really good interview. So when I walk in and I sit in front of her, it starts perfectly. She goes like, my Watford boy, like, or something like that. She's like starts, and she's like, come here, gives a hug, like, and I'm thinking like, geez, this just doesn't happen with these interviews. This is perfect. So I've started the interview, and I haven't really started with anything kind of, you try to be a bit funny or something, but it's quite simple questions. And she's just sort of smiling back at me, and she sort of laughs off the question, gives a really short answer. And I see her look at the person with her, and she sort of looks back, and I'm like, okay, a bit odd, but we'll go to the next question. Next question, she just looks really put out. It's like I've really said something really bad.
You asked her how she would come on to a guy, like, because she was playing the promiscuous boss in Horrible Bosses. Yeah,
exactly. It's all linked in. It's all linked in. And to the point where actually some of these questions I'd ran past the producer. That was the other thing I remember now. That was really weird. The producer that I was with was like telling me to ask certain things, and like, that's a great question. He was like, go with that one. And it's just getting more and more awkward. And she's sort of fidgeting around with her hair a bit. She's sort of like, then she tells me something like, I just think that's a bit inappropriate.
Oh.
Now, in that environment, when you don't really suspect that there's anything wide, I just thought, oh my God, this is horrendous. I'm looking like some sort of misogynistic. Just the whole thing. It was like so not what I intended. It was just meant to be a nice chat. And it gets worse, like this thing, and I'm squirming, and I'm thinking, like, honestly, I'm just wanting the ground to swallow me up. I'm just like, it's just gone worse than I could imagine. It was like a nightmare scenario.
You're quite composed in it, though. Like, on the external, you seem quite composed.
Yeah, but I remember just thinking, this is really weird. Like, this is really horrible. I didn't want this. Like,
yeah.
And then Scott appears. That's the first thing I see is Scott. And my first thought is, thank God. Like, he's here. And I just thought, maybe they've just wheeled him out to kind of join in the interview. And for me, that's perfect. So I'm thinking, like, brilliant, saves a day. That was my first thought. And then I clock that he puts his arm around me, I think, and he says, like, he says that it's a prank. And I just remember, like, wanting to punch him. I was so relieved as well.
Yeah.
But my heart was pounding because you don't know, you're so out of control. It's like a roller coaster, was it? Like, you're so out of control in that situation. And he's like holding me down, and I'm just there, like, just like can't believe what's happening. And then luckily she was so sound, she was like, came over, gave me a hug. So I didn't want to do this. And the whole thing was, the film was Horrible Bosses. So even though, so the idea was, obviously, she makes the interview as awkward as possible because Scott's been a horrible boss to me.
Right.
And then this thing went massive.
Yeah. It's so good.
But it's so out of my control. And I'll tell you this as well. I've always said I'll get Scott back for that. And I've got good resources now, But I said it will be one day. It might even be on some of the last days of his life, or like, I want him to
kill him.
I want him to never think it's just on Radio 1, or like,
right.
We could
go bigger.
We could be 20 years down the line on this. I need to, but I haven't got the idea.
You haven't got anything. You're a man of ideas.
I've often thought of it. I've often thought about this and thought, what can we do? Like, I flirted with the idea of him coming to a football match. I'll say it because I don't think we're going to do this one, but coming to a football match and him thinking that he's donated a large sum of money from his own account from a check that we'll have, and it'll be like this person saying, look, you're so generous of you, like, you know, 30 grand, announce it to the stadium and everything.
See,
like
that's
30
good.
grand.
That is good.
Have this little child there that was going to be a real pain in the arse, like, but, you know, was going to receive the money on behalf of a charity, like, all sorts of things through my mind. So anyone listening to this, it needs to be an elite level of revenge. Like, you look at that Jennifer Aniston one, it needs the equivalent of hit me up on the socials.
I'm in a similar boat to you, but not on Jennifer Aniston level. But Jack,
it's the best.
Plotted this clip did really well for us. But Jack plotted with a guest who came in, Pieface, who came in and made me ask him a question, and he stormed out of this room. And there's literally, in the clip, I'm holding my hands up going, no, I promise I didn't mean to do that. And it looks like I'm going to cry.
I promise. I think you asked him was it about gambling?
He had a gambling addiction, but it's a well-known thing. And he said, no, I said I didn't want to talk about that. And then he was just like, oh, you've mugged me off. And he stormed out. And then I'm just looking at Jack.
I promise I didn't. I promise.
It's the worst, isn't it?
I hated it.
No, but that's the difference. Chris was professional and kept it together. And you were like, I promise I didn't.
Because he was storming out. So I need to get Jack back as well.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a guest actually storm out?
Yeah.
Oh.
Nicolas Cage. He that was a crazy one. Like, he came in. It was a weird vibe when he came in. Shook Scott's hand, sort of half shook mine, and then sat down, and then just didn't want to answer any questions. And Scott was like, Scott especially was being super friendly and sort of setting things up, and I think Scott said something like, "Well, you're moving around quite a bit. Where are you based at the moment?" And he was like, the Bermuda Triangle. It was just like, the whole thing was quite weird. And I don't think we ever ended up playing it out, because he sort of did 3-4 more questions of this and then just put his headphones down, just walked out.
What?
It was, and like, I look back on it
so
and try and
weird.
work out if it was an act or if there was something else going on.
That's so bizarre.
But Scott is such a nice guy. And I remember us just being in there going like, what?
Yeah.
Like, there's been difficult scenarios, and you do have the odd guest that comes on, they either like have signed up to innuendo bingo and don't want to do it.
Right.
Or like, and it happens sometimes. That's all good, but that one was just like,
weird.
Really
Did you have any
weird.
contact from